Hello and welcome to Monday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic on what feels like it should be a Sunday. It's a bank holiday here in the UK, so everything feels slightly out of kilter. But hopefully not my brain. We shall see. I am going to attempt a puzzle called Clashing Chameleons by the Cogito. And this one comes with a bit of a story behind it. I think it was inspired by a puzzle I did recently on the channel. In fact, about a week ago. I think it might have been last Tuesday. Duelling Dragons by IcyFruit. I did an IcyFruit puzzle yesterday as well. That was a lot easier than Duelling Dragons. Duelling Dragons took me 4 hours and 3 minutes to solve. And many of you have watched that video, which is extraordinary. But thank you very much for watching it. Anyway, this puzzle was inspired by that puzzle. And I've had emails from people who've done this one as well, and they say that it is just really, really a beautiful tribute to Dueling Dragons. And I just snipped some comments on Logic Masters about this. Mixo, who's a fantastic solver and setter, says that having already solved Dueling Dragons, this felt hilariously approachable. And Fool on Hill, we need to see more puzzles exploiting these ideas. The symmetry break in this one is exquisite. And IcyFruit themselves, great puzzle. It's nice to see a variation on the idea. So I'm looking forward to trying this. I think I'm probably going to have a massive advantage because I mean it took me so long to do Dueling Dragons that I sort of felt by the end of that experience that I did at least understand the constraint that was operating a little bit. And I've read the rules of this one, and I definitely have some ideas as to how to tackle it. So we shall see whether experience is useful. I'm going to claim it is. And lots of people who start watching this channel just think it's mumbo jumbo. But if you give it a chance, the whole idea and the logical flow will start, you'll start to pick it up, and you'll find you can do these puzzles. Everybody watching can do these puzzles. You just need to practice and get that little bit of experience in the bank. And hopefully I'll be able to do this one. I don't know. We shall see. Clashing Chameleons by the Cogito is what I shall attempt in a moment or two's time. But if you are watching this today on Monday at 10 PM tonight UK time, so in just an hour and a half, well, after the video comes out, fingers crossed, Mark and I are streaming. We're going to have a go at Blueprints again. So we've done one stream. It's a fantastic game. We have no idea what's going on. And indeed, it's probably been a month since the first stream. But we'd love to have your company if you're around. I'll try and remember to put a link on the screen. Do check it out. And the other big news is over on Patreon. We've got a brand new competition running. I have remembered to get the screen up today. This is Blob's Oil and Water Sudoku Hunt. So I don't know. I think these were the old numbers because I haven't refreshed this in a couple of days. So we were at 98 for people who'd finished all 10 puzzles, and 1,253 who'd. Yeah, it's gone up. So 1,561 have now done the intro puzzle. Oh, goodness. 270 nearly have done the final puzzle. I mean, there are a couple of bonuses in there as well. That's fantastic. It is fantastic. It's really, really well done to everyone who's made it through the whole thing. I mean, Blobs' puzzles, they are... You can normally get through them. They're sort of, I would say, just under average in terms of difficulty. So everybody watching can do these puzzles, but that's a terrific effort to get through the whole thing in just 5 days. So very well done to all of you who have finished the whole thing. If you haven't had a go yet, do have a go. I'm not sure you'd like the prize. The prize is going to be to try and make a Sudoku video that will appear on the channel with me. But the competition closes on the 20th, so do have a go in the meantime and see how you get on. And now we'll do the birthdays. Let me look at my list. We'll start with Clark. Clark, you've turned 8 today. That's fantastic that you even watched, that you are even aware that the channel exists. Clark, I am so impressed. Your dad, Dusty, wrote to us and told us how much you like numbers and math, and also Sudoku with colours. I don't know whether we're going to get colours today or not. We shall see. But thank you for watching. Yes, I do sometimes play the guitar behind me. Let's have a quick go. I don't think I can't do Happy Birthday, but I'll play you something. What should I play? I don't know. Clark, you might not recognise that, but your dad might. And it was a bit butchered, but never mind, never mind. I hope you will be an old friend of the channel in years to come. Clark, happy birthday, and I hope you get chocolate cake. Next, another young viewer, Seth. Seth, you've turned 14 today, and I might have made a mistake because I think I was meant to read out your birthday on Friday, so I hope that you do watch the Sudoku videos as well as the cryptic crossword videos. But Seth, I know it's your birthday because your parents, Neil and Vicky, wrote in and said you'd appreciate a shout out. So Seth, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a brilliant birthday today. And then finally, Miles. Miles, it's your birthday. And I know this because your girlfriend Catherine wrote in and told us that you watch every evening, and now she's hooked as well. So well done, Miles, for spreading the news about the existence of Cracking the Cryptic. And I gather you're in for plenty of chocolate cake today. So providing it's heavily iced, Miles, you're in for a brilliant birthday. And I hope indeed that that is what you have. With that said and done, let's have a look at Clashing Chameleons by the Cogito, and I will read you the rules of this one, which if you watched the Duelling Dragons video, well, they'll just itch a little bit, just scratch at the side of your brain. We've got normal Sudoku rules apply. Well, that's the same as the other one. So we've got to put the digits 1 to 9 once each in every row, every column, and every 3x3 box. Now, shade the boundary between adjacent digits if and only if they sum to an even number. Shaded boundaries must divide the grid into exactly 2 regions. There may be shaded boundaries that lie within a region without fully dividing it, as allowed by other rules. So that is really similar to Duelling Dragons, but Duelling Dragons, I think, talked about primes rather than evens. But it's very similar rule. And then there's only one more rule. A digit in a cell with 1 or more arrows indicates the total number of shaded boundaries in the directions of all arrows combined. So, if that square was 5, that would mean that in those, so the boundaries in this row and this column would sum to 5. Is what that would mean. So perhaps actually rather than do that, what we should do is draw a boundary, shouldn't we? Let's go to the line drawing tool. Let's draw a boundary across the grid and see if we can understand, just with reference to the rules. What are we saying here? We're saying we shade the boundary if and only if they sum to an even number. So all of these cells, all of these pairs would sum to an even number. Now, you could also get tendrils emanating from this line, like that, providing that they... Yeah, so it's possible that these tendrils would sum to an even number as well, if allowed by other rules. I suppose that's going to be the arrows. but there's a sort of master boundary, if you like. The master boundary being the things that are not tendrils, so the things that go there. But everything across a boundary in this puzzle is even. And I think in the other puzzle, it was something like non-prime rather than even. So it's a very similar rule, but not quite the same. Anyway, do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. I delete the lines. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. But now, I get to play. Let's get cracking. Now, I do think I have an enormous advantage in solving this puzzle because I am going to make a bold statement straight away, I think. In Duelling Dragons, I could create boundaries with 2 cells that summed to 9 and 2 cells that summed to 15. Because they were non-prime. In this puzzle, it literally is. It's much more parity, isn't it? If 2 digits sum to an even number, which means that those 2 digits share parity. So if those 2 digits have the same parity, and that could be even parity or odd parity, I have to draw a boundary between them. Now, here's the thing that I think we might be able to say in this puzzle. If 2 digits share parity, sorry, and I'm forming my thoughts as I'm thinking this through, so I don't want to misspeak here. So I apologise if this comes out in a stuttering way. But if 2 digits do share parity in this puzzle, I'm going to allege, at least, that they cannot create a tendril. So what do I mean? What I mean is, if that's the master boundary, is it possible, say, for those 2 digits to both be even? So that would create a sort of, a tendril off the master boundary. I don't think so. And the reason is, I do not think that these 2 cells can be in the same region of the puzzle. Now, it's a strong allegation, isn't it? Why? Let's just think about this. And this is, by the way, if you do not see this, do not worry. I barely see it, and I spent 4 hours on the other puzzle. But the reason I think this is true is because if these are in the same region, which is what we're alleging here, we're saying this division across between the 2 and the 4 is not part of the real boundary dividing the grid into 2 shaded areas, or 2 different areas. It's part of a fictitious boundary, a tendril off the main boundary. If that's what we're really saying could happen, we are saying that we can link these 2 digits together by entirely moving through what we'll call this region, aren't we? This is the bottom part of the grid that's defined by the real boundary. So we ought to be able to get from here to here just by moving orthogonally through the yellow area in such a way in a continuous way, if you like. So without going through, there must be a route from here to here that is entirely made up of odd totals. And that is impossible. Now, the reason that's impossible is, how do you create in this puzzle an odd total? And the answer, the only way of creating a domino with an odd total, is if one of the cells is even and one of the cells is odd. And that means that the root that we take between this 4 and this 2, this 4 will have to go into an odd cell, let's say it's that one, and then it will have to go into an even cell, let's say it's that one, etc. And if you look carefully, what you're going to have for these, well, along this route, is a certain checkerboarding, if you like, of the odd cells, and a checkerboarding similarly of the even cells. Now from here, you're also going to have checkerboarding, so you're going to have to move into an odd cell, and then an even cell, and then an odd cell, and then an even cell, and then an odd cell, etc. But if you look carefully, these odd digits are not on the same bishop's colour as these. So it's impossible. By the time these lines connect, you will find that we will have... Let's try and connect them. Oh, but the next cell is going to create an even boundary, which is impossible. There cannot be even boundaries, because we need... But why can there not be this? Because we are alleging at the start of the process that there is a route between here and here that we can continuously go down. You may say, oh, no, all right, I'm not going in that square, I'll go in that square instead. Well, you're going to run into the same problem. Eventually, when you meet up with this line here, you will not be on the correct parity. It's impossible. So if these are in the same region, well, they can't be. They cannot be in the same region if they share parity with each other. And that means... Well, what does that mean? That means that this puzzle has no tendrils. So if this was the genuine boundary... Yeah, one way of thinking about this that I found helpful in Dueling Dragons is what we're going to have one checkerboarding in one region of the puzzle. So we might, if let's look at the bottom region, we might have even digits doing this sort of thing. That. Now, if we did have that, what we're going to find in the top region is that the evens are on the other bishop's colour. So like this. Let's just... And obviously the odds are going to be in the white cells. And therefore you can see... Oops, I missed one. You can see that across these boundaries, we've got the only instances in the puzzle of the shared parity dominoes. Now, what does this mean for solving the puzzle? I don't know yet, but I do think that must be an important point. No tendrils. So this sentence, there may be shaded boundaries that lie within a region without fully dividing it, as allowed by other rules, it's a red herring, if you can call it that. It's possible to prove, and we just have done it, that there are no such shaded boundaries. So every domino in this puzzle that has the same parity in both its cells is part of the real boundary. Now, what does that mean? One thing that means is that this boundary is going off a wandering, let me tell you. That's a slightly strange sentence, but it does mean that. This boundary, I'm going to firstly allege, is going to visit... It's going to visit... It must be in one of the first two columns of the grid. It must be in one of the last two columns of the grid. It must be in one of the first two rows of the grid. And it must be in one of the last two rows of the grid. Now you may say, what? nonsense is that? Well, the reason that's true is, let's imagine that the boundary in this puzzle didn't get into these two rows. Then we know that there is a checkerboard pattern that exists, an unadulterated checkerboard pattern for odds and evens within these two rows. But that can't be true, because one of these colours represents even digits. And if we count the odds, or the oranges in that row, yeah, oranges is a better way of putting it, oranges in row 9, there are 5, and if we count the blues in row 8, there are 5. Now there are only 4 even digits in Sudoku, so whichever colour represented the even digits, blue or orange, there would be a problem, because there would be too many evens in one of those rows. So I think it is also legitimate to say that the boundary that we are going to shade in this grid, it's not going to be what I drew at the start. It's not going to be something like that, which never gets into row 2 or row 1 or row 8 or row 9. It's going to be a much more complicated creature. Now, the other thing that we can say let me think about this. The other thing we can say is that we've got to be careful more generally with even digits. So that pattern I just drew, actually I'm not sure that's true. No, it is true. It is true. I think in the puzzle we'll never ever be able to have. Let's imagine that cell was even for a moment. Row 1, column 1. If that's even, could that be even? And I'm going to claim no. And here is the reason. The reason for that is that these are on the same bishop's colour. So axiomatically, these are in the same region of the puzzle. Now, there are therefore 2 possibilities as to how to put these into the same region. Either, and this is the simpler version, all the cells in row 1 are in the same region. That would be one possibility, and that's definitely impossible now, because those 3 cells, by bishop's colouring, would be even. 5 evens in the row. Now the alternative to that is there's some disturbance in the force that says actually wah wah. Don't know, the disturbance in the force doesn't say wah wah. We could do it like that, say, couldn't we? That would be a potential way of dividing the grid in 2, and that would allow these blues to connect. But of course the problem with that is that these cells now are all in that bishop's colouring, and rather than having just 5 evens in row 1, I've now got 5 evens in column 1, column 9 and row 9, and I've utterly broken the puzzle. So what we have to be careful about is how many even corners the puzzle has. So does that mean it's these that we have to think about? I'm not sure. I see what they mean now about, there was that comment about symmetry, by the way. This puzzle is incredibly symmetric. When I say symmetric, I mean look at goodness, I can't draw. Well, I really can't draw in real life either. Not that this isn't real life, but you know what I mean. If I fold the grid around that negative diagonal, All of the clues hit each other except that these arrows don't hit each other for the middle cell. Everything else would hit each other. Literally, it's the same pattern. That's really, really weird. So the only thing breaking the symmetry is a vertical arrow. That's astonishing. That's so weird. Anyway, sorry, that's not what we should be thinking about, is it? We need to think about... I do wonder whether the whole perimeter here is... Oh no, that can't be true, actually. No, what I was about to say is such nonsense. Okay, what I was about to say, I will say this because it's perhaps slightly instructive to hear my mind's nonsense. What I wondered is whether or not the whole perimeter could be in one shaded colour. Now, obviously that would have to be odd in these positions and then even in the gaps. And then the shaded boundary that we would draw would actually be an internal boundary. Now that could have been possible, except it isn't. And the reason, of course, it isn't is that these numbers would be 0. There would be no shaded boundaries. This perimeter is all on the same bishop's colour. So there would be no boundaries. To put it a slightly another way, and hopefully this is obvious, obviously once we fill in all the evens, you can see that each domino is adding up to an odd number and therefore isn't creating a boundary. This puzzle is definitely all about parity. I just haven't quite understood how to think about it yet. But okay, so we do know well, how many... Okay, so given my conclusion about the fact I didn't think it was possible to create a boundary that wasn't a real boundary, how could... Okay, I'm now starting to think that these have to be 1s. Because I can't... I'm now starting to think they can't be 0s. 0 is not a Sudoku digit. So there are real boundaries, actual boundaries that exist in the perimeter of this puzzle. And wherever those boundaries go, they are real boundaries. Sorry to repeat myself, but imagine there were 2 real boundaries in column 9 and 2 real boundaries in column 1. How am I joining these boundaries together? Given they're all part of the master boundary, I can't join those up because now these are going to create region 3 over here. There's no way to do it. There is no way to do it. I can't create, I can join that one to that one, but then I've got to join this one over here. Okay, it's obvious really. When you think about it like this, there's only 2 boundaries in this puzzle. There's only 2 cuts of the perimeter. And given... there's no overlap, is there? I mean, I know these cells are overlapping, but there's no boundary overlaps between what this sees, what this arrow sees, and what this arrow sees. And given neither of these can be 0, there must be a 1 here, and there must be a 1 here. Which would make both of these odd. Let's try and just check that logic. So if this was even, then we know from what we did before, this could not be even and this could not be even. Because if this is even, either those are even or the whole perimeter is even other than this row. So this would be odd. The same logic by symmetry would make that odd. And now these odds have to join up. Okay, and yeah, that doesn't work. It's slightly weird, but it doesn't work. Because now what am I going to fill in there? I've made that a 0 now. There are no boundaries in row 1 or column 9. Yeah, okay. So it does make sense. It does make sense. I think these have to be odd ones. Now though, it's going to get even more complicated because that means that either this way, connecting these up like this, or this way, we've got to retain the bishop's colouring. So, which way do we think? So, if the bishop's colouring is retained this way, let's just plonk this in for a moment, which means these squares are even. Now what we're saying is that down here somewhere there is a cut. Down here somewhere the 1 is pointing at a parity, a similar parity. So let's make it really obvious. Let's do it there. So that is the 1 cell in this column that can one domino in this column that shares parity. So after this we would oscillate parity like that and like this. And we could do the same here, couldn't we? And then these would be even and these would be odd. And what's wrong with that? The only thing you learn from that is the nature of those cells, which have to be, well, they are even. They're even, but they've got nothing in their row. Because the row is perfect, it adds up to only odd numbers, so there's no boundaries in the west and the easterly direction. There are no boundaries in the north and the south direction. There's no boundaries, so there must be an even number of boundaries in the column. Which wouldn't work with what I've done here. This is wrong. Now, I've said this is wrong because I feel it's wrong. It's definitely wrong. It's definitely wrong. It is wrong, but it's this is going to get very complicated. But the reason I think this is wrong is that there can't be. I don't think there can be an even number of boundaries between a blue cell and an orange cell on the perimeter. Now, why do I think that? That's more instinct than me actually knowing it. The reason I think it's true, though, is that I've changed bishop's colour. So I must have an odd number of cuts. Is that wrong? That might be wrong. I feel it's right, but it might be wrong. Let's try and simplify it. So if I have switched bishop's colour across a column, let's make that trivially a 2. How would I do that? Then to make 2 boundaries, I could have 2 even digits in a row. That boundary and that boundary are now my 2 cuts. So after that, I should be on the same. Yeah, I'm right. You should be after that, you should be retaining bishop's colouring. So it is, I am right. You can't do that. But, okay, but this doesn't invalidate this option. Because what it means is, what would happen if, rather than have the boundary cut in row 9 here, what would happen if I shifted it to there, for example? Then this digit would now be even. And that would be correct. Oh, this is so complicated. But how does it even... I'm so sorry. I'm so confused now. But this is oh. No, that doesn't help me. I don't know. This is very odd indeed. And if I do it the other way, so if I do it the other way, I'm going to know less about the grid, because then I don't think I even know what the parity of these things is. What I mean is, let me just show you. If I, instead of that, I say the way that these, I say that the boundary in these cells is in this row, and the boundary in these cells is in this column. Then obviously these cells have no boundary and retain their bishop's nature. So all of those turn orange, all of these turn blue. And the reason I think that this is less good is that now I can't use parity and the fact there's no cuts in this row to know even the colour of this, because I don't know where the change happens. If that's odd, which would be actually, no, let's make it, it's meant to be even. If the parity change is late, this would be even. That actually doesn't work. If that's odd then, so if the parity change is... Oh, I see, it doesn't work. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Good grief. So the other version is right, but I put the parity change in the wrong. This is mad. It's absolutely mad. Right. Now, I don't think this is correct, but it's very, very difficult to explain why. Let me try, though. We now know, if we are in this world where the cuts in the boundary occur in row 1 and here, yeah, if this is where the cuts occur, I have to decide where in row 1 we're going to create a domino with the same parity in order to create the even number, so we have to put in a boundary. Now, the fact is I don't know where it would go, and this was what I thought was the problem. Let's just make this odd though, and let's see if it could work if this is an odd digit. And the point is that we know the horizontal count. It's 1. So the east-west arrows here point at 1 boundary that this one's pointing at too. So that means, but this is an odd number, don't forget. So that means in this column, I need to see an even number of boundaries. But these are different colours. It's impossible. It's impossible, because in order for me to correct the count, if you like, and I must do it, there must be there's got to, you can see there's got to be a boundary in this column, otherwise this cell would be odd. So there's got to be at least one boundary. And in order for this to be blue, there's got to be an odd number of boundaries. Okay, let me prove that to you a different way. I'm going to put an even, because I need an even number of boundaries, I'm going to put them in. I'm going to make those two squares both odd. Now there is boundary there, boundary there. So after this, we should be on the retaining our bishop's colours. You see, it just breaks immediately. This should be odd, and it's not. So if this is odd, it doesn't work. And of course, if this is even, it's so beautiful in a way. It's so beautiful because now we know this sees 1 in its row, but it's got an even number of boundaries in its column now because that is blue and that is blue. So the parity is the same. This parity is working. So I've got to put an even number of boundaries in. And once I add the odd number in row 1 in, that should be odd. Ah! And it goes round in a paradox. And all this means that the way that the parity switch, or the way that the boundary break is, what it means is the boundary break is somewhere here and somewhere here. And it means these squares are definitely of this disposition. So now the reason this surprised me originally is I sort of did an example in the bottom row and column 9. And I've definitely got that example wrong because this is indisputably even now. So let's do the count. 1 in this row. That's odd. But I've got to get to an even number. So in this column, we know that this digit has to be odd. There's got to be an odd number of cuts in this column to add to the odd number of cuts here to get to an even boundary. And now, now I'm surprised because it went wrong. Hang on, that should be correct then. What I had before should be correct. Because that's what I did. I thought I put the odd digit there, which would make this correct. Oh, now I've lost. Have I gone mad? I've gone mad. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So, let me think this through again. I think I better think it out again. I'm reviewing. So what I'm saying is, when I did the example before though, I didn't think this worked. Oh, there's no bound, that's why. I am an idiot. Right, that's fine. That's fine. You spotted it, didn't you? Well done, all of you who are shouting at me. You're quite right to shout at me. I am an idiot. Right, but no. Okay, so I've got... The question... I looked at this one and said, there's one boundary in this row. No, there's not anymore, because I've shifted the boundary that this one is pointing at to here. So there is no boundary here. And if there's no boundary here, this needs to see an even number of boundaries, and that makes that blue, and that does make it different to what we had last time where I put the orange here. Now, what that means is, so that means in this row where there is a boundary cut, there is a boundary. Let's just call it a boundary. There's one boundary, so there's one domino that is the same parity as there's one cell that's the same parity as its neighbour. And that hasn't happened by the time we get there, because if it had happened, it would then have had to switch back as well. and then there would be 2 boundaries, and there are not 2 boundaries here. So this cell is definitely odd, that cell is definitely even, and the boundary cut happens somewhere over here. Yeah, I see. Right. And now the parity, now the symmetry. This is just a ridiculous puzzle. It's ridiculous. Now the symmetry allows me to do exactly the logic I've just done with that cell. Let's see if I can do it a bit more smoothly. What I'm claiming is in this column there is no boundaries, or there are no boundaries, so it's 0 in the column. But it's an even number, so that is blue, which is the correct parity vis-a-vis this. So that is orange, that is blue. There's a boundary, well, there's a shaded boundary somewhere in there. There's a shaded boundary somewhere in there, and then this boundary, don't forget, it's not going to be. It can't be something like this, and it'd be a trivial boundary, because whatever boundary we create has to get into here. It's got to get into here, because if it didn't, across row 2, for example, there would be 5 even digits. Yes. This is okay. This is quite good. This cell I can colour. The reason I think I can colour it is that it is pointing at the total boundaries in column 4 and row 4. But I know that in this row, I don't know how many there are, but there are an even number of boundaries, because that's blue and that's blue. And in this column there are an even number of boundaries, so that is even of its nature. Right, I'm going to do that trick again. This cell here, I know how many, again, I don't know what the digit is that goes in it, but I know it's even, because in this column there are even, and in that row there are even, because I'm on the same bishop's colour across the column, across the row, sorry. So that is even. Presumably, therefore, that is even. Yes, it is exactly the same. Every bit of logic I do, apart from anything that involves that cell, I can just copy across the grid into its mirror cell across the negative diagonal. Okay, well, okay, I've now got 4 evens in this column, so all of those are odd. All of these are odd. Let's use my own advice. So, right, okay, so now I've got some actual boundaries. I've got actual boundaries to draw in, because I can go across 2 dominoes that share parity with each other. We can draw in boundaries. Okay, that didn't do as much as I was hoping. Yeah, okay, but presumably what we can say here is, yes, I know the parity of this cell, I think. Let me explain that. Let's look at row 2. In row 2, I've got blue on both sides, so I know that east-west wise, there's an even contribution to this cell's total. Now, if this was blue, there would be an even contribution here as well, which would make this a blue cell overall. It would be adding even and even, but that logic would apply equally here. If this is blue, it's got even in the column and even across here, so these would both be blue, and that's impossible because there'd then be 5 blues in this box. So there are not 5 even digits in the box. So this is definitely odd, and that's the parity. Right, this is so clever. This is becoming ridiculously clever, because now what colour are we going to make this? And the answer is, I don't care. But there is a boundary there, because if I make this orange, this is a boundary, and if I make it blue, that's a boundary, and that is the boundary that that's looking at. So after this cell in this row, the boundary, the colours retain their bishop's colouring. So there's a boundary. I don't know where it is. It's there or there. And presumably this is going to work here as well. But let me just think now about these two cells, because these I think are both odd now, aren't they? They're adding an even boundary total in the row, both of them, to an odd total in the column. They are both odd. So, okay, so we draw more boundaries. That's what we do. That's what we get for that. So now I know the parity of that one. Because if that's odd, I've got to make a little area there that has nothing to do with all my other boundaries. That's clearly nonsense. So that's definitely even. Oh, okay, yes, I see other things emerging here dimly. Look at this, the north boundary here. Where's that going next? Because it can't go down, because there's no boundary here. This is an even number being added to an odd number, so it's odd, so it doesn't get a boundary. And this can't go straight there, because that would create a branching boundary, and we know there's no such thing. So this goes up, and that means this square is blue to create the boundary, and now I've got 4 evens in box 2, and that's odd, and now, oh, this might break. This has all got to join up. Okay, it does actually. That does, it's beautiful. It just works. And now the exciting thing is, does this all work symmetrically? It must work symmetrically. I've not used this square. So how do we do this? We started off by considering these two, which are these two. Yes, so they've got an even total number of boundaries in the columns. So they can't have that can't be blue, or we're in a wretched world of pain. So these are all odd. We draw the boundaries that result. We now know this square has to be even, otherwise this would be a closed loop of shadedness. Now, yeah, and so then we say this has to go that way, which is true. That makes this square even to allow that to happen, which makes this square odd, which allows us to draw that. So now the boundary has never gone into box 1 ever. It can't go in there, it can't get to it. And that's okay, that is okay, because the boundary has reached row 2 and it has reached column 2, so I'm not going to have a sort of checkerboarding problem here. But we therefore know this is all part of the same region, so we can fill it in checkerboard style and create ourselves a good old quincunx up there. There's a quincunx. Don't start thinking about that, Simon. So, what do we do now? Now we are going to say, I don't know quite what we're going to say. Yes, I do. That cell is even. If this was odd, I'd have to make this connect to this boundary, which we know is wrong. So that's definitely even. That's all 4 evens in this row, so that's odd, which means this is a boundary. That is not a boundary, and we can't turn left because we're going to it. So, oh, I see. So we'd actually naturally go that way. And I've got one more. I've got one more even, which is either here or here, and one more odd. So if it went even, odd, it would just go straight across, and if it went odd, even, it would go up and across. It still closes either way round. I think that works either way. It doesn't matter. Okay, well let's do our symmetry then, because I don't understand that bit. This square is not odd by symmetry with the other one, so that's even. Oh yes, okay, so then that's odd to complete the column. I get that boundary and that boundary drawn in. Oh dear. Oh dear, I think I'm suddenly getting stuck here. Well, how about we go... Oh, I know what we do here. I can just count that one. I know what the answer to that is. I don't know what it is yet because I haven't done the counting. But look, that's completed. All of the boundaries that are going to be drawn in row 4 are done. And therefore, by symmetry, the same must be true of column 4. I've not actually checked that one. But how many boundaries? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think it's going to be 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, that's got to be 8. So do I know that one? It sees 4 in the column and 2 in the row. Can it see any more in the row? No. So I think that's a 6, which presumably means that's a 6. It must do. I shouldn't even check it. It must mean that, because otherwise the world is broken and symmetry doesn't exist. Now, what about that one? That sees nothing in the row and 4 in the column. So that's 4, which means that's 4. So now this is 2 and this is 2. And now, has that actually helped me though? I'm not sure it has, you know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Oh my goodness me. Hang on. I've got 4 evens in row 9. So that's odd. Now does... I haven't... Hang on. Oh, I know what I haven't done. I was thinking, gosh, I haven't got the same... But I didn't complete my colouring. Ah, yes. So this cell is where the break comes in this column. It's exactly the same. It's exactly analogous. So we continue the bishop's colouring down here. That's got to be orange. That's got to be blue. And now I've got 4 blues in this, just as I had 4 blues in this. So this has to be orange. And now... this is so beautiful. This is blue by dint of the fact that we've got the same colour in this column. So we know that must be an even number of boundaries. So that's got to be even. This is now odd. I can do the boundaries here. That's how it's got to look. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. I don't know. How do we do this then? Have we got... Is this obvious? I bet it isn't. What? Okay, what is this number? It sees 2. Does it need to see any more? How many more could it see, conceivably? It can't be 6 now, can it? It sees 2. 1, 2. There are 3 possible more boundaries, but it is even. So it's 2 or 4. Can it really only be 2 though? If it was only 2, it's seen its boundaries. So this couldn't come across, so this would be odd. All of those would be even. And that would come in here. Oh no, hang on, doesn't that strand? Oh no, oh yeah, okay, of course, yeah. This is the boundary, this is the boundary. So all of these lines emanate from these 2 boundary positions. So now if these were all even, yeah, no, that would work, and that could be a 2. I don't believe it. Okay, if that's a 4, how does it work? If that's a 4, 1, 2... I have to decide. Oh, it would have to go blue, orange, otherwise it wouldn't work, because there'd be no more boundaries. So it would go blue, orange, be double. Oh no, hang on, that doesn't work. Hang on, I'm getting confused now. In this column, I need 1 more of each. So if that was blue and that was orange, I go there, there. No, I wouldn't. I would go there. And then that would be 4. Oh, that's ridiculous. So that doesn't break. Well, it must break the symmetry somehow, but it works both ways round. Goodness, okay. So, right. Okay, do I know what this is? I do... Yeah, I do know its count in the column, actually, that cell. 1. It's only 2, I think. 1, 2. How does it get any more? There's no more boundaries I can possibly draw in this column. So it gets 2 from the column. Let's just put 2 in the cell, just so we remind ourselves of that. Now it needs to get an odd number from here. And it's got 2 at the moment. And this can't be a boundary. So hang on. We were on 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is possible. That might be able to be 7. But then what would that be? Oh, I see. That's going to see more in the column than this one does, is it? Is that the idea? Yeah, that'll be the idea. I see. So I think what's going to happen is this is going to rinky-dink around in order to make this a different number to this. I think. Okay. If that's right, then... Yeah, that might be the question that we ask here. How do you make these different numbers? Because they're obviously seeing the same in the east-west direction. And at the moment, in the north-south direction, this sees 2 and is never seeing any more. And this sees 2, which we know it can't see, because then it would be the same number as this. So this needs to see more boundaries. So this can't just close. Yeah, that's it. So if this was blue, and this was therefore yellow, or sorry, orange, you can see the way that the boundaries close is like this. And that's all fine, except I think this sees 2 vertically, this sees 2 vertically, and they see the same horizontally. That cannot be right. Wow. Okay, so this is orange, and this is blue, and that's going to make the boundary do this, and this, and this. And now this one sees 2 more than this one. So whatever this, so this one, hang on, what's the minimum this is? 1, 2, the minimum of that is 5. So this is 5 or 7, and this is 7 or 9, is how it works, I think. And presumably I can just do all that, because I haven't used this digit. I haven't used its value at all. So all of that logic must work here with these 2 digits. So this has to see some boundaries, and the way to create those boundaries, I want to say, is to make this orange, and then that's blue, and that's going to shift the boundary up, shift the boundary up, shift the boundary up, and that's going to create, so I've got the same pattern on both sides of the grid. So now, this is a really peculiar boundary. So do we know what this is? I know it's seeing an odd number of boundaries in its column, but because I don't know how many boundaries it's got to its east, which could be 1 or 2, I can correct the odd number of boundaries to make this either colour in theory, I think. I can't make both of those boundaries orange. That's definitely true. Let me just show you why that is. If both of these are odd, then I get an enclosed area. I have to draw that, and I've made a pool in the middle of the grid, and that can't be right given I've got these stranded boundaries there. So those are not both odd. Now, if this was, so at least one of them is even. I don't know whether they can both be even. They can't both be odd. Can one of them be odd? If one of them's odd, it closes in. If one of them's odd, the other one is even. So they're either both even or one of them is even. So whichever one is even is going to complete its row. And it's going to do weird things to the boundary, look. In fact, it's doing more than that, because it's going to force all of that as well. So whichever one is even, these are going to be odd now. Ah, I see. I see. Good grief. Right. Okay, this is so beautiful. This is such a beautiful puzzle. Honestly, the cogito, take a bow. Right. Okay. Alright, I need to unwind this. So, we're in this position. We're not sure what's going on, but what I'm here to tell you, I think, is that because both of these can't be odd, at least one of them's even. Now, what does that mean for it when it becomes even? And I think the thing is, it's going to be a 4. So I think there's at least one 4 in these squares. And why do I really care about that? Well, I think it's going to make that a 2. Because if there is a 4 in one of those, this cannot be 4. Now, why do I think it's legitimate? And I think this logic, I'm going to do this logic independent of this. The point is, let's look at this one. If this was even, what happens? Well, from a row perspective, this becomes odd. And now I've got all my odds in this box, so we get this pattern exactly. Now, the crucial thing to recognise here is that in this column, we're going to have 2 odds here. So a boundary, in other words. And we've got 2 evens here, so we've got a boundary. We've got a boundary here. So this column has 3 boundaries. This row, just to the east is where we're looking, has 1 boundary. So this becomes a 4. And that logic would apply here in exactly the same way. There's no difference between the shading in this box and this box. So what that means is we don't know which of these. It may turn out both of them have to be 4, but at least one of them is a 4 because they can't both be odd. And therefore this is 2. And now that 2 is complete in the column. But that boundary and that boundary. So there are no more boundaries. So that can't be odd. That's got to be even. And that's got to be odd, presumably. So that means this is a boundary. And hopefully this does something. Well, okay. Because that has got closed. Yeah, this is great. This is great. Because this has got closed in now, that can't get closed in. So this has got to be even, which means we know it's a 4. Which means we can now do 8 and 6 in this row and 4 here. And now we have to think, so this definitely becomes odd. The boundary goes bump, bump, which is a strange way for it to go, but it does. These both become even. So the other boundary, this boundary goes boop, 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 like that. And we're going to have to work out in a moment what it does thereafter. Well, although in this column, I've now got 2 odds. So that's a boundary. I really hope this is going to work. And now, okay, now in row 7 I've got all my odds. So those 2 are both even. Which means the boundary's going do, do, do. This is odd now. By dint of parity. Oh, please link up. So that goes like this, like this. And now I've got 1 even cell left to put in the grid, which is there. And if this joins up, which is going to, is that a legitimate way? I mean, that's ridiculous. This is one of the cleverest puzzles I've ever seen in my life. That is ridiculous. And therefore, now I can count. Now if any of these parities goes wrong, I will be so upset. Where do we start then, do you think? Here? 1, 2, 3. Oh, it does work. That's a 3. Okay. I suddenly thought that was going to be, that was at least going to go back to even. What's that one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 7, because we know that this one sees 2 more. Oh no, I'm not sure I trust these to be 5 and 7 then, because I don't quite know how that's worked with this. So let's see. 1, 2, 3. That one is 5. Yeah, so that is 5 and 7. It is the same. So these are a 5-7 pair in box 5. Is this actually going to work and disambiguate? Because haven't I just filled in all of the numbers I'm going to get? This is it's a bit strange, isn't it? I'm just meaning, so this is a 1 now. I can see that because of the 1 in the corner. 5 is in one of those. I don't feel like we've got enough information. 3 is in one of those. Really? Is there something else I meant to, is there something else I meant to see here? Oh, I see. 1 is in one of those, so that is a 1. And now the... oh, good grief. This is an unbelievable puzzle. So now I've got a 1... yeah. No, I haven't. What have I got? 5, 9 into these squares. But 5 is definitely in those cells. This is 5 or 7 by Sudoku. Maybe the even numbers are easier. That isn't it. That's a very easy even number. I don't know actually. I'm struggling. That's a 6. So that's an 8. Okay. The even numbers might be a bit easier. At least I can fill in a couple of them. Yeah, so these are 4 and 8. Whoops, 4 and 8. Six, yeah, 6 is placed in this one, isn't it? By dint of Sudoku, that fair-weathered friend. That's an 8 now. So these are 2 and 4 in some order. This is a 6. So this is a 6. Yeah, just do Sudoku, Simon. 8. This is a 2-4 pair. Oof. I hope this works. I really hope this works. 4 is in that domino in this box. So that fixes the 4, fixes the 2, fixes the 2, fixes the 4, fixes the 4, fixes the 8. Fixes the 2, fixes the 6. So that's 6, that's 8. I don't believe it. This is just incredible. It is incredible. 8 here. 4 in the corner. The even digits are done. All I've got to do is figure out a way, and I will sit here for a very long time not to give up on this. All I've got to figure out is how the odd digits go into this grid. Now, okay, so 3 in box 1 is mildly restricted. It could be in the corner. 5 is in one of those 3. What are those? Those are 1, 3, 9. Is that somehow useful? I can see that's not... oh, this is a naked single apparently. Because I've got a 1 pencil mark here. Good grief. So this becomes 1, 3. That becomes 9. Now, what does that mean? So this is 1 or... oh, this is not 1. Oh, good grief. It's still going. It's still working. Which is so utterly exciting. 3 goes here. 5, 7, 9. Can we just fill it in? So please just fill in. I'm going to double click my 3s in the hope that they just fill in. I don't think they're going to. No, I don't think they are going to. Bother. 1s. Double click the 1s. Oh yeah, we can do things with 1s. 1, 1. 1 in one of those. That was an unexpected. That's a 9. That's just Sudoku. So that's a 9 by that's Sudoku. That's a 5. So 5 is in one of those cells. These are, I mean, this is 7 or 9. Is that worth noting? I don't know. This column. Oh no, I think it is just working. I'm just doing it slowly. And that's fine. I'm not going to be too embarrassed about this because if I can finish it at all, I will be chuffed. 3, 7, 9. So 9 is in one of those cells by Sudoku. So that is 3 or 7. In this column, we need 1, 3, 7, 9. Can I do this 5, 7 pair somehow? These are 1, 5, 7, and that's not 5. I might have to colour things, that's possible. No, that's a naked single. That's C's, 1, 9, 5, 3, so that is 7. So that's 1, which, oh actually, that means that's 1, doesn't it? So we should do that. Now in this row we've not put 9 in. So 9, 7, 3, no 3 in the corner for you. But we get to finish all of that. Now, we've not put 7 and 9 into these two squares. And we haven't put 5 and 9 into these squares. And we haven't put 3, 5 and 7 into these squares. Hopefully something is looking at one of these. Yeah, that's a 3, 5, 7 triple, isn't it? So the 3 is going to have to go there. That's going to have to be 9. Now, don't be a deadly pattern, please. That can't be 3 because of the 3 in this row. So that's a... Oh, so the 3s are going to get done. Oh, this looks deadly to me. How? Is it a deadly pattern? No, the 9 here. Oh, thank goodness for that. 9, 5, 5, 7. 7, 5, 5, 7, 9, whoops, 9, 7. Oh, well, I'm taking that. It hasn't got a solution in it. Well, it must be right. It must be. It must be right. There's no way you can luck into that. It's just impossible. Oh my goodness. I mean, that's quite... I mean, the original puzzle was total genius, and the Cogito has sort of just said, okay, I'm also a genius. There you go. Boom. That's wonderful. That is a wonderful puzzle. Absolutely, I mean, sensationally clever. Let me know in the comments what you thought of it, and let me know, especially if you did Duelling Dragons. Well, I mean, it was so helpful. It was so helpful because I sort of knew. I knew at the start about tendrils being impossible. But even then, it's so clever the way this has been done to make you think about like the other side of the grid and then how the parity's going to work. Oh, that is an absolute worldie. Let me know in the comments how you got on with it. I enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind. And I've just finished this in time that if you're watching this on 1x1, I might see you for blueprints on our stream in about 6-7 minutes time. Thanks for watching. Back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.